folks, welcome back to my channel Humanity's Gateway. So, as I mentioned before, today we are going to take the first chapter in our politics and contemporary world politics test, the Cold War era. So, yeah, let's get into the video and discuss this chapter thoroughly. So, the title of our textbook is Contemporary World Politics. What is contemporary world? Contemporary means happenings of the present. Contemporary world means a group of ideas in our present time or something happening, the world occurrence in our present. Okay, that's contemporary world. Okay, and we are going to discuss about the politics, the world politics in this contemporary period. And this contemporary period started after the Second World War. So the Second World War, the end of the Second World War marked a group of events. After the end of the Second World War, there were a group of events occurring consecutively after one, another one, like that. There were many events. Okay, so in this chapter or in this text, the first three chapters deals with such events. First four chapters deals with such events. So let's say the very first one is Cold War, which started which started immediately after the Second World War, and the next one is end of bipolarity. That is the end of the Cold War. Okay, the end of the Cold War. When the Cold War was there, the world was bipolar. That means there were two superpowers. After the end of the Cold War, that became a unipolar, or there was only one power. That is known as the end of bipolarity. And end of bipolarity means now there is only one power. That's America. That we can call it U.S. hegemony. Okay. And during the time of US hegemony, or even from that period of Cold War, there were other alliances coming in the world. Okay, like ASEAN, European Union. Okay, these alliances were coming. So these are the events immediately after the Cold War, and we are gonna deal these things in our first chapter. Okay, and in this chapter we will be discussing about Cold War, okay? And in Cold War, we will be discussing the dominance of US and USSR, okay? Like what is Cold War and their dominance, okay? In this Cold War period, there were two superpowers, and we will be discussing about their dominance. Then we will be discussing arenas of the Cold War, and one among that arena is Cuban Missile Crisis. Then we will be discussing NAM, that is non-alignment movement, and the India's role in this Cold War period. So that's what our discussion is all about. So we will be starting with what is Cold War. Okay, we will be dealing this portion Cuban Missile Crisis later. We will begin with what is Cold War. Okay, see, the end of Second World War is landmark in the contemporary world politics. So what is this World War? The World War basically was a war between these Axis powers and Allied powers, and the Allied powers led by US, Soviet Union, Britain, and France defeated these Axis powers. Okay, Germany, Italy, and Japan, they failed. So that was the end of the Cold War. These three powers failed, and the rest of the powers, that's the Allied powers, they won. So that was the end of the Second World War. Okay, so this World War included a lot of major powers in the world. Okay, all the superpowers were there, but after the World War, there was like changes. Changes means defeat of Germany. Germany, this is not about Germany. Most of the European countries were busy with their reconstruction. Okay, the Europe was completely devastated, and Germany, as you know, Germany was defeated and it had a very great financial loss, and Europe was busy in the recovery. So basically, now there is only two powers, that is US and USSR. Okay, that is the time these superpowers came into the arena, and they were like amazing. They were not enemies, but they both followed different ideologies. As we know, here it is given. Okay, US represented the liberal democracy or capitalism, and the Soviet Union was committed to the ideology of socialism and communism. You know what is socialism? in one word, we can say that socialism is a welfare-oriented approach, or everything in the country is owned by the government. It's everything is public property. There is no private property. Okay, and whereas in capitalism, everything is owned by a private property. Like in a private ownership, there is no public property. That is profit oriented. Capitalism is all about profit oriented, and socialism is welfare oriented. Okay, so here you can see there are two ideologies. These two superpowers are holding two different ideologies. So this was not a hot war like they were taking their weapons and coming fight. No, it was not like that. The thing here was they were fighting for their ideology. They need more and more countries to join their alliance so that they can prove this ideology. Socialism is better, capitalism is better. So it was an ideological conflict. What is Cold War? It's very simple. You can say that it's an ideological conflict between US and USSR. That's a very simple definition for that. And this ideological conflict is US represented the liberal democracy and capitalism, whereas USSR was committed to these two communism and socialism ideologies. So this Cold War was all about a ideological difference between these two countries. Here they are saying about these points. Okay, the First World War shaken the world, and immediately in 1939 we are having another World War. So, like everything was not in our control. The world was entirely facing two different wars in a short period of time, and it had a great loss of lives, humankind, mankind, financial loss. There were lots of loss. Okay, so in this time, okay, when there were these losses, do you know how the World War ended? The World War ended by USA dropping a nuclear bomb in Japan. And do you have any idea what would be the impact? Okay, a world war, such a long war, such a war that has this much impact, just end by dropping a nuclear bomb in one of the country. The impact would be the country which dropped the nuclear bomb, that is USA, would in turn become a big power. Like their influence made such a great loss, and that ended the war. So obviously they would become a great power. So there is a lot of criticism regarding the US usage of nuclear bomb, that they are saying that this bomb was used to show the Moscow and all other areas, like US is supreme, just not Moscow, all the areas that US has a supreme power. Okay, that was to show that. Okay, it was just a show off. We can say that. Okay, but USA said that was it was very necessary to end the Cold War, and that's why they did that. But it's like everybody have different opinions, and many of them still believe that Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bomb attack was not necessary. Just it proved how dangerous USA is. That's what they needed, and that happened. So that's why people still say that that was not necessary. Okay, coming to next page, here it's clearly stated, with the defeat of Germany and Japan, the devastation of Europe in many parts of the world, the United States and the Soviet Union became the greatest powers, and they were in a fight like who is supreme. That led to the Cold War. Okay, and that was an ideological conflict. Okay, is that clear? And here, okay, just see here we have some portions like the Little Boy and the Fat Man, which are the nuclear bombs dropped in the US, dropped by US in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Just note it down. That can be a one-word question, because in Hiroshima, Little Boy was dropped, and in Nagasaki, Fat Man was dropped. Okay, and if you want this will be not asked. Okay, like the size of the bomb and its capacity, that will not be asked. But if you want, you can just go through this data. Okay, it's a very important data. And yeah, now we are gonna discuss about another topic. And yeah, now we are gonna discuss about another topic: logic of deterrence. Okay, see, this topic is very important. This can be asked as a short answer, like for 2 marks, or even it can be asked as a one-word question. It's very important. Okay, So, deterrence means an action of discouraging. That is the word meaning of deterrence. And now, what is the political idea of this logic of deterrence? That's our topic. Here it is stated very clearly with example. So, I will give you a short idea. Okay, just listen. The idea of deterrence is both US and USSR, okay, both US and USSR have the power, have the nuclear power to destroy both these places. US have the power to destroy USSR and USSR have the power to destroy US. They both have nuclear potential which is equal or equally dangerous, okay. So they won't be ready to face a war, to face a hot war. They fear each other's power. Okay, so there will be no complete war. Like they will prevent the war because they know, like if USSR, for example, take this example. Okay, if USSR are taking a war, and they are going to destroy US with their nuclear power. Okay, even they had used their complete power and destroyed US completely, US will still have enough power to destroy USSR. So what's the need? Like what does that give them? They both will be destroyed. There will be nothing to gain or lose. No, there will be nothing to gain. Everything will be loosened. Okay, because they have a great power. Both of them have that much power. So they never will go into a complete war. That is known as logic of deterrence. Okay. See, I will explain you once more. Both have a great power, or we can call that an equal power, equally dangerous power. So even though USSR was going to attack USA and destroy USA will still have enough power to destroy USSR. That means going to a complete war is nothing. Like it is utterly foolishness because though both of these countries will be destroyed, and actually not these countries, the entire world will be destroyed because they have that much nuclear potential. So when their world is destroyed, that means there is no superpower, there is no America, there is no USSR. Okay, so they will not go to a complete war. They will do the maximum to resist a complete hot war. Okay, they will not face off each other. Even though there were situations when they came in the face to face in many other parts in the world, but there were no hot war. This was because of the logic of deterrence. Okay, is that clear? I hope it is clear. If that's not clear, please mention in the comment box. I will take it once more because that's very important. Okay, the emergence of two power blocks. That's our another topic. So now the superpowers were keen on expanding their power. Okay, like they wanted many countries to join their alliance to show that this idea is supreme and the other idea is supreme. So this basically divide the whole world into two. Here you can see, no, here you cannot see. Just see the whole world into two. One supporting US and another supporting USSR. Okay. Then there was another group also that we will be discussing later. Now just imagine there is two groups. One supporting US, one supporting USSR. Okay. So and now why the smaller states wanted to join to these alliances? Now the alliances want them because of the first reason is they want to expand their power and show that they are enough strong. They are much stronger than the other. But what is the necessity of the smaller states? That's the question. So here we can note it down. First one is protection. There will be all the countries. Now we can see India has a threat from China, from Pakistan. Okay, we are under threat. These neighboring countries can attack us. Similarly, every country will have a threat from their neighboring countries. So basically, they need protection. And for second, they need weapons. Okay, and for third, they need economic aid. Okay, these two are connected. Economic aid and weapons, the greater powers like the America and the USSR have a great power, okay, great weapons and also a great financial system. But the smaller countries that doesn't have this. So what they want the support from the bigger countries or this great powers. So that's why they join this alliance. By joining this alliance, they get these things. Okay, so basically many of the countries depending on their needs they join some or the other alliance, or even based on the ideology they joined any of this alliance. Okay, and this divided the world into two: the Eastern Alliance the Western Alliance and the Eastern Alliance. Okay, US is the West and USSR is the East. Do you know why it's known as Western and Eastern? It's not just because of the US is residing in the West and USSR is in the East. It's because the major division happened in the Europe. Okay, consider this to be Europe. Europe was completely divided into the half. The western part joined to USA and the eastern part joined into USSR, and there came this alliance called Western Alliance and the Eastern Alliance. Okay, is that clear? So now there was an emergence of two power blocks, and the world was divided into two: Western and Eastern Alliance. Okay, Western Alliance under US and Eastern Alliance under USSR. Okay, and when they became these two power blocks, now what they had started to make alliances, make agreements. Okay, like some of the agreements like NATO treaties, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that is NATO. See, here it is. This is an alliance of Europe, Western European countries and North America, and they used to say that in the treaty it is mentioned that if there is an attack on any of these countries, that will be taken as attack on all of them, and they will fight together. That's NATO. Then why they make this alliance? Do you have any idea why they make this alliance? They make this alliance because they want to make sure now we are a team. Okay, when we are making friends, just imagine the situation. We are having friends. Okay, we have a team of 6 member group. Okay, we have 6 members in our group and we are friends. To make it sure that we are friends, what will we be doing? We will be making a WhatsApp group. For simple way, we are making a WhatsApp group, and we will be like a team. If any of one is hard, we will all will go and ask them. It will be okay. Just simple way, we will be making a WhatsApp group in our phone, and if any of them will have an issue in our group, what will be they doing? The first thing, what will be they doing? Maybe they make a fight with us or whatever that is. How will they show us? They show us by leaving the group, and we will be having a message that he or she left the group. So we know that they have an issue with us. So the same thing for making these alliances means they are making us feel that, making everyone feel that like they are a team. Okay, that's why they are making this alliances. And in 1949 April, this NATO was formed. It's important. It's a very great one word, and that was the purpose of NATO was to was there were that was a Western European and North American alliance, and it was considered that an attack on any of these countries will be taken as an attack on all of them. Okay, and to help each other, that was we, and CUET, that is Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. As we know, many of these countries, like the Eastern countries and the Asian countries, were the USSR alliance. Okay, that were aligned to USSR to make them also in American, or to exert a control on them. The America formed CUET in 1954 so that these countries can join in them, and they also formed another alliance, CENTO, Central Treaty Organization. Okay, this was for countries in the central area. Okay, this was for those countries in the central areas to join uh, America. Okay, American alliance. Okay, it was on 1955, and this was early known as Baghdad Pact. Okay, note it down. Later, the name was changed to CENTO. So yeah, American alliance number one, NATO. It was formed in 1949. Second, CUET. It was formed in 1954 to keeping a eye, or keeping an eye, or keep maintaining a team in Southeast Asian nations. And CENTO, it was formed in 1955. It was earlier known as Baghdad Pact. These were the American alliance. They had three alliances, and in 1955, Soviet Union or USSR made the Warsaw Pact to counter the actions of NATO. Okay, so that's basically the alliances. And now coming to the okay, before this, we have another point about, yeah, now we know these two alliances, like the Eastern and Western alliance. Sorry, Western and Eastern alliance. Okay, now we have another group of people called NAM, that is non-aligned movement and non-aligned countries. We have such a group. What is that group? So we know that the Cold War divided the world into two. So the newly independent country, just aim. Okay, just imagine, we India, a newly independent country, became independent in 1947. And when we became independent, a Cold War scenario is happening around the world. Will we be satisfied or agree to join any of this alliance? If I was the ruler during that time, I will not. Now I got my freedom with a long fight, and we just become free from a colonial rule for about 200 years, 190 years, okay, around 2 centuries. We were under the imperial power, and now will we be sorry? Will we be ready to give our freedom to someone? Because joining an alliance is such a thing. We are going under someone. Okay, will we be ready? No, I won't be if I was there during that time. So the same thing happened. The newly independent countries moved, and they said they will not join any of these two alliances, and they moved back. That is known as non-alignment movement. Okay, and we had already mentioned why smaller states need these alliances, great alliances for protection, for weapons, and for financial aid. Now we'll be discussing why these greater powers need this alliances. Sorry, these smaller countries. That's because vital resources. We know India had a great amount of resources, and Britain took most of our resources. So they need the smaller states for resources, for territory where they can launch weapons and locations where they can spy. In Cuban Missile Crisis, we will be learning about this territory where they can launch the weapons and economic support. In that, many small allies, okay, small allies can give them a economic support too, like that's a revenue for them. Okay, and that's it. And here we'll be discussing about the arenas of Cold War. That's our next topic. In the arenas of Cold War, it's very simple. Arenas mean, what do you mean by arena? Arena is a scene of activity or a domain. Okay. So the Cold War, what were the domains of Cold War? What were the spheres of Cold War? How long this Cold War, like how much impact does it give in the world? So we already had told that they never came into a phase of, okay, there was no hot war. So they came into each other, they faced each other in different areas around the world. Okay, so these are some of the arenas that is from here. Korean War, Berlin, Congo. Okay, these three were the alliances, and we had one more alliances, that is the Cuban. Sorry, one more arena we have, that is the Cuban Missile Crisis. So here we will be discussing this topic soon after completing this, okay? And see, a great many lives were lost in some of these arenas like Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan. But world was spared a nuclear war and global hostilities. This arenas means their domain. You can say the sphere. They can say that during this Cold War or due to this Cold War, in many countries there was a face-off. Do you know what is the Korean War? Due to the Korean War, there was a separation in Korea called the that there, now we can see there is North Korea and South Korea. This came in the Korean War in 1950 to 55, and sometimes countries outside the two blocks help to stop the war, like the non-aligned countries. Okay, and here we can see that in Koreas, okay, in mediating between the two Koreas, Jawaharlal Nehru played a crucial role, and in Congo, UN Secretary played a mediatory role. So this Cold War doesn't turn into a hot war because there were people who were so keen in keeping this a not keeping this a hot war and keeping it just as the way it is. Okay, so and yeah, so this Cold War thus rolled from one arena to another. That means now there was a war, like due to this difference between US and USSR, there was a war in Korea. Okay, after that it moved to Berlin. That arena changed to Berlin. Now there was a fight in Berlin, then to Vietnam, then to Afghanistan, then to Congo. This changed from one place to another, but there was no hot war in the world. If there was such a hot war, it would become World War III. So, fortunately, there was nothing that, and there was no other nuclear war. It was be always safe. Okay, um so yeah, but you can see it's nothing so serious. Okay, you just can't read it out, there is nothing. But the thing they're mentioning here is, even though there was no hot war, there was suspicion. That means every time these two countries were ready for a war because they never trusted the other country. That's the thing here they are mentioning. Okay, and this timeline is very important. Okay, I think there are some topics that we will be discussing soon after studying our 1-2 chapters. Okay, completing the 1-2 chapter, we will be discussing this timeline. Okay, because there is a reason I asked you to do it together, because there is a continuation. Okay, not a continuation. Here we will be discussing under the disintegration of Cold War. In the same timeline, we can include some other things. Then the two timeline, joint timeline, we can study. That would be somewhat more easy, I think so. And here there is some leaders. Okay, see the leaders of NAM. Here we will be discussing their part also, because it's an MCQ oriented part. We will be discussing that also together, because in the very next chapter there are some other leaders too. And this portion, this arms control treaty, we will be discussing this portion also together after completing our second chapter. Okay, because there are also some portions like that, so we'll be doing it together. Okay, so note down the portions I skipped. There's timeline. There was a note about 5 leaders who contributed to the NAM, and also who founded the NAM, and also we will be discussing some treaties. Okay, these three portions included with the leaders given in the next chapter, with the timeline given in the next chapter. We'll be doing all these 3 sections together, all these 5 sessions, 5 or more sessions together. Now we will be moving to the last portion of this, or last portion of this video, Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, yeah, Cuban Missile Crisis. Where is Cuba? That's our first topic, or first thing we want to know. Cuba is an island nation on the coast of US. Okay, in the US coast there was an island nation called Cuba. And Cuba, it was an island nation, and there was a leader, Fidel Castro. He mentioned, okay, mark his name, Fidel Castro. Okay, Fidel Castro came into power by a democratically election. Sorry. So, Cuban Missile Crisis. Where is Cuba? Cuba is an island nation in US coast. Okay, and Cuba had a ruler called Fidel Castro. Mark his name, Fidel Castro, and he is a communist ruler. Okay, so he got his financial and military aid from Nikita Khrushchev. Okay, we will be discussing detailedly who is Nikita Khrushchev in our very next chapter. Okay, Nikita Khrushchev. So yeah, okay, here, okay, Nikita Khrushchev. Okay, he is the ruler of, or he is the president of Soviet system. So basically, now island nation, the coast of US, which US is a capitalist country. If US is US in the coast of US, Cuba is getting its financial aid, its diplomatic aid, even its ideology is to the Soviet system. So obviously, US wouldn't like that. So US tried its maximum to overthrow the communist ruled government in Cuba, and the US secret agency CIA made many attempts to kill Fidel Castro. So, afraid of this movements, what had the USSR done? The USSR converted this Cuba into a Russian base. That means now Russia is controlling Cuba. Fidel Castro may be the ruler, might be the ruler there also, but now the ultimate control is the in the hands of Russia. Okay, and mark this point here. Cuba into a Russian base. Okay, and what does this mean? Into the Russian base means Russia have the entire control of this Cuba, and they installed nuclear missions or nuclear missiles in the Cuba. Okay, so this, see, Cuba is an island nation in US coast. So that means they install nuclear weapons in this Cuba. Means now that is the a very close area from where USSR can attack US. That's why I had said that for alliances, these larger countries or these great powers need alliances from smaller countries for location, so that they can keep their weapons and attack their countries. So this was so a secret mission. So after 3 years only, not 3 years, okay, so sorry. After 3 weeks only, John F. Kennedy, the American president, came to know about this. So sad, okay. So obviously, he will be like in a situation he can't do anything. If he had done a single bit of thing, that means US is under threat now, and US will be attacked. So he wants to compel USSR to take away this missiles, but he should be very responsibility not to convert this into a horde war. And yeah, he made attempts. The very simplest attempt was that when the Russian ships and Soviet ships came to US to Cuba to drop these missiles, the American warships blocked the area, and yeah, the war was imminent. That means this was the time when entire world was looking for a hot war because there were more chances to become a hot war, and US and USSR were in a phase of during this time. But yeah, fortunately that doesn't happen because a few days, a few weeks later, the Russian ships went back, and that was the Cuban Missile Crisis. What was the crisis was when these missiles were installed in Cuba, America was under a great threat, and America was all set to make this USSR remove this remove these weapons, and USSR will not be ready to do that, but yeah, America compelled it, and for that compulsion, America blocked the Soviet ship warships, and that was a crisis. Okay, that is known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's very simple, and it was the greatest arena of the Cold War. So that's in this portion. So we had discussed about the Cuban Missile Crisis. We had discussed that. We had discussed what is Cold War, we had discussed the emergence of two powers, then we had discussed the arenas of Cold War, okay? And after completing our second chapter, we'll be giving a clear explanation of the timeline. There were some treaties, okay? Treaties during this time which the America and the USSR signed together to stop the production of this nuclear weapons. That's a very important. We will discuss it in another video, okay? So yeah guys, that's about today's video. Stay tuned. I will upload my next video in next week, and that will be about now non-alignment movement. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Study well, stay well, do share, subscribe, and like my videos, subscribe my channel. That's it. Bye bye.